Hi. Today I want to talk about tiny homes and tiny house design flaws. I am currently in a big house, downsizing to go tiny house, and I am obsessed with watching tiny house tour videos. I have seen scores and scores of them, probably even hundreds at this point, and I see some common things appearing over and over that are really problematic for me, and they can be overcome, so let's talk about them. I also see some common things that are done very well, lots of creative storage ideas. I'm going to actually do a separate video for storage solutions, so let's just focus on some of the flaws now that are common. Okay, the biggest one is this. The bathroom dumping right out into the kitchen. Pun intended. This just feels wrong, okay? And I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to keep the plumbing simplistic, and they're sharing a common wall. It just makes things easier. They also say, copper pipe's expensive and blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, I can go down right now and buy a 10-foot long copper pipe for $20. Spring for some extra money. Come on, it's a tiny house. It's 15 fucking feet long. I mean, run the pipe. If your house is a big tiny house, it's going to be 45 feet long max, likely, if you're keeping it to road rules, the highway rules, where your trailer and auto pulling it cannot exceed, let's say, 60 feet from nose to tail ends. And there's height requirements as well to be road friendly for bridges, and your tiny house cannot exceed 13.5 feet tall on the trailer. So when you're building the home, you have to factor in when it's on a trailer, that's going to add to the height. Also, once you put the home on a trailer, the shocks can go down and you can gain a little height that way, but that's a crapshoot and hard to say exactly until it's all said and done. And I wouldn't want to really guess with that sort of thing. But the bathroom situation, okay, it's like, I can't even believe I would have to explain why this is wrong, okay? I mean, animals don't even shit where they sleep and eat. And there are third world countries that don't even want their bathroom inside, let alone dumping out into their kitchen. Look, the door doesn't have to open right up into the kitchen. If your place is so tiny, like we're talking 86 square feet, which is, I'm not living that tiny, by the way, no. But you could still have the door like at the end of the kitchen, or like before the kitchen, or something like that. But when you can actually see straight into the bathroom, and from the bathroom right into the kitchen sink or the stove, to me, that's just wrong. I have done maybe 100 or so sketches, and I have worked around this by sharing a common wall, but having the entrance to the bathroom where you had to go around, okay, so there was this sense of privacy even though it's sharing a common wall, okay. So work through that. There are alternatives, and it's like people, they're not very creative, and I just keep seeing the same design over and over and over. Another big design flaw, a very common one. Now, there are people who may not see this as a flaw, okay, so this is all subjective and opinions, but some of it common sense, and I realize that's not so common anymore. But it's the situation with the bedroom loft, okay? I have seen where the person cannot even sit upright in bed. That once they get up in there, they have to still keep crawling just to lay down. And I'm just going to hit on the sex subject because no one else is. What if the woman likes it on top? What if you like it doggy style? The guy's driving in the back. He's standing on his knees. Let's just be frank here, okay? Your tiny house needs to meet your needs. It's your house, and it needs to be practical and suit your lifestyle and interests. And I'm a diehard camper, and I'm used to roughing it, but I don't want to live like I'm camping or feeling claustrophobic in a space on a day-to-day basis. Now, I understand there are space issues, and they're trying to squeeze everything in, but here is a creative idea as an alternative to these little micro lofts. What you could do is not put the loft so high up, okay? And I understand they're wanting to have a space on the lower deck level where they can stand. But consider having a seating area under the bedroom where they're both kind of sharing the equal space, half and half. And the seating space, well, you're seated. I mean, I'm seated right now, and I know that my nipples are actually at 4 feet, so, okay, so picture, there's like 4 feet. If you can have like 5 or 5.5 even, well, I'm 5.5 feet tall, standing, 4.5. But just saying, like, you could have a seating area where it's under the bed and you still have a sense of not feeling claustrophobic, in addition to the bed area to where you have plenty of room to do all the bedroom activities you enjoy doing outside of sleeping. Not everyone just sleeps in their bedroom, for the record. Although that's mostly what goes on in there in most places, in homes. Okay, so the micro bedroom, we need more headspace, okay, even though it's intended for a bed where you're lying down. Another thing you could do instead of a seating area under that bed space is have not a walk-in closet, but a crawl-in closet, yes, or a duck walk-in closet. And when I am kneeling or squatting, I found that I can do it at 3 feet, but I kind of have to do this with my head. But when I have 4 feet, and remember, I am kneeling fine and have ample breathing room around my head, where I could even get up and walk a bit, but hunched way over. So imagine whatever square footage your sleeping space is, you could have equal space, like let's say 80 square feet for storage. Ladies, you don't have to do this 1 foot wide closet people are talking about and 1 pair of shoes. Screw that. Don't listen to that. There are alternatives, and people just need to put on their creative thinking cap. So those are my biggest complaints with the most common design flaws, which is subjective, but for me and my house, that would be a flaw. And it's the bedrooms being micro-tiny, not enough headroom, and then the bathroom dumping right out into the kitchen. A lot of houses could use better privacy for bathrooms, even with a lot of space. And I have even seen in a luxury nice home, it was actually featured in a magazine one time, and it had the bathroom right off of the kitchen. I mean, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Who the fuck are these architects? And now, I have a hard-on for architecture, especially masonry in particular, and interior design and how a space is used. I have been this way from birth, basically, just fixated with it. And some of these designs are just not practical for how people live or use a space or function. Or like, okay, let's talk about the kitchen. My sink needs to be bigger than a salad bowl. I mean, I have stock pots that are bigger than some of these sinks. Again, it's almost like for a person who doesn't really cook, or they have little tiny, tiny pots. Okay, that's fine. But I want a full-blown kitchen, and I'm not letting go of my cookware. The sink, it needs to be bigger. So that's one thing that would not work for me. Also, let's see. Some of the kitchen layouts, I'm just saying, they're not really for people who cook. Like one lady, she said, our refrigerator just takes up way too much room, so she decided not to put one in. Okay. She must eat out a lot, or, you know, well, to be fair, being I don't know, maybe she just she doesn't need to refrigerate anything, because she doesn't buy perishables. Maybe everything's just like in a can, you know, you open it up, you nuke it, and that sort of thing. But look, I don't refrigerate my vegetables and stuff. I tend to leave my produce out. I even leave my eggs out. I leave my butter out so it will culture. So I'm not like, I don't have a refrigerator fetish, okay? But at the same time, once food is cooked and if you have leftovers, this is where it does need to go in the refrigerator. So it's not like I need a big giant refrigerator, but to not have one at all, you know. And actually, I don't even need a freezer, but I do now that I have a dog, because I feed her a raw, meaty bone diet, and so I get a lot of raw meat for her, more than she could eat before it goes bad if it was in the refrigerator, so I have to freeze it. So if it weren't for that, I wouldn't even need a freezer, because I buy my stuff fresh. And when I have not had electric for almost 2 weeks at a time because of Hurricane Wilma, and also when I turned my electric off because I couldn't pay my bill, that's happened before. Really, the only concerns were some of the meat in the refrigerator, and then really everything else was fine. So back to meat. But since then, I have experimented with preserving meat without refrigeration by basically fermenting it, fermenting it. I made homemade pastrami recently, which was an interesting experience, and it was more old school preservation. This is kind of getting away from tiny house flaws, so I should steer back on track, because I can get going on this other stuff and get sidetracked. I'm sorry. I have something called external thinking, and I have lots of thoughts that I just puke out. Okay, so the tiny house situation with not being real practical. Another thing was with the bedroom loft, a lot of people were putting a ladder smack dab in the middle of a walk path, a high traffic avenue. it's like, and then they have to move it over, get it out, or, you know, there's different setups they have, but some are kind of awkward, and it's... One clever design was the ladder slid over and there was a bookshelf there, but then it was interfering with the bookshelf, like you couldn't access it so well, and it was visually chaotic. And I'm for aesthetics and streamlining and keeping things neat and tiny. I don't like visual chaos. And an award-winning design was the person who came up with a ladder that would slide over, but was in alignment with the bookshelf. So the footsteps on the ladder lined up with the bookshelf, and it just looked like the bookshelf when the ladder was right there in front of it. And also, everything's accessible. You don't have to move the ladder over to get your books, you know. So that was a very clever improvement on the ladder design and with the slider. But I would go with stairs. I like the idea that you can actually use the stairs for storage inside, or a closet space beneath, or to put that big refrigerator or something like that. So those are great ideas. And there are people who say that they don't want to put walls in their tiny house because it takes up space. But I'm here to tell you that it can actually create space. It can create little nooks and corners where you can put something and create a sense of separation in different areas, you know, even though it could be like still one room. But, you know, it's like kind of going around the corner, a little getaway spot. So don't be afraid to add walls. And people say, well, there'll be dead space between the walls. Not necessarily. That's what sunken shelves are for, okay? And you could put all kinds of things there that would otherwise be dead space. And it could be cups, it could be books, it could be anything. It could even be clothes. Yeah, I have. I'll touch on this stuff though in the storage video. So I just wanted to really mainly focus on the flaws I'm seeing that are common, that would absolutely not work for me at all. What is another thing? Oh yes, the back to the bedroom loft. Okay. Often people will put a cute little window up there so they can look out, but it's a fixed window, meaning it doesn't open. Okay, now heat rises. That's a basic law of physics. There's no way around that. And you need ventilation, and in the summer especially. In the winter, hey, okay, it's going to be nice and toasty. But not only do you really need a window there, you need a window on the opposing side for a cross breeze. And wind tunnel action tends to happen, and like, you know, so that is something a number of people have expressed regretting when they only put a fixed window in that did not open. Let's see, now the ladder thing, getting up to the loft, yeah, it's like, that might be cute and fun for a day or so, but I think it could get old for a person, you know, especially if they get up a lot in the night, or, you know, they need to pee, or they're not feeling well, or something like that. It could just be a bit of a burden, and I think there could be some creative workarounds, especially that whole storage closet thing that is commonly done when people put in the stairs. What else? Well, something I really like I've seen done with the bathroom is when people hide the toilet, making it actually like a sitting bench or a dressing kind of chair, and it's totally hiding the toilet. And I mean, how often are you on the toilet in a day, right? A matter of minutes. I mean, well, it doesn't take me long, I shit and get, but some people, they might be in there longer and they have their books and stuff. It's like, I can't imagine being in there long enough I could read an article or even a paragraph. But the idea of hiding the toilet, this otherwise big thing hogging up this space, but making it into a functional, like, chair or the whole dressing thing, that's a nice touch. I like that a lot. I would want to implement that. Definitely. So, when I'm doing the, this is for the, composting toilet, by the way. For those of you that might be confused on what I'm talking about with the, what does she mean, the toilet's also a chair and a hidden bench? Yeah, the whole humanure thing. It seems like people dealing with their own waste is something people are very uptight about, but I'm thinking, it's your shit. You can't even handle dealing with your own shit, literally. And what it must be like for a person to be responsible for everything they do and dump onto the world, and no one else is going to clean it up or deal with it for them. And I think if more people had to deal with their own shit, they would be singing a different tune and have a different perspective on things. But that is another video as well. Now, another thing is, see, I'm not going to have air conditioning, and I want open floor plan with amazing cross ventilation, shotgun style, both ways, okay? And one problem with tiny houses is that they don't have eaves, or they're too tiny to make a difference. And I mean, I have a 1.5 foot overhang of an eave on my big house here, and rain will still come in the windows. I've seen it come in as far as 6 feet deep into this house, and that wasn't even like a big tropical storm, but it made it in that far, and that was past the eave, in through the window, and then on into the house. So one solution people have had to overcome that is windows that pop out like this, like they have a hinge at the top. So instead of sliding up and down, it goes like this and makes an eave. And what I like about this style of window is the window frame, you just opened up the whole window. Because the windows I have on my big house here, you know, they have like the two, it's like slides up. It looks like 2 panels, but only one slides up. You don't even get half of that space. You get about 1/3 of it on my style of windows. I don't like them. But yet there's this big frame where you could have all that wind coming in. But one concern I have about these little flop out windows, I'm not sure what you call those, is the wind's kind of got it coming through the sides and under it. And I get some very high winds in my area sometimes, so how is it going to want to like slam it? Or I'm sure they have some sort of tension rod or something to adjust that and make it safe so it doesn't get slammed around and beat up. But when I was in Montreal, there was, they had the cool French style windows that open like doors, but it opened to the outside. So imagine a window is open hanging out like a door. And there were some high winds that were making the window kind of like, it looked like it could hurt the window, you know what I mean? So I would say if you go with that style, get the really nice beefy ones and don't skimp. Just like on the copper pipe I was mentioning, people act like, oh, you know, it's like, I understand understand we all have a budget. It's just a question of how big our budget is, and people have to work with what they have. But this is your home, and if it just meant spending a couple $100 more, for fuck's sake, save your lunch money, quit smoking. I mean, I don't know, but figure it out. Come up with the money. This is your home, and your comfort is pivoting on your choices here. I mean, when you look at it over the course of the long haul, are you really saving anything if you're uncomfortable living in your house? Okay? And now you gotta go out and get some AC system that uses more energy, or now you need a new solar panel, when you could have just invested on the front end in a better ventilation system with simple windows. Just saying. So sometimes I just slap myself on the forehead when I see some of the designs and then their reasoning and what they've come up with. Now, another thing are tiny houses with big prices. I am seeing where some people have paid for their tiny house as much as I paid for my whole house. A house on a real foundation made of concrete block, a bomb shelter basically, with the exception of the roof, which could get blown off in a hurricane, but these walls would still be standing. And it's a concrete foundation house on 1/5 of an acre on a city lot 3 miles from the ocean. So I cannot imagine paying even half of that for an 86 square foot house. Again, not that I'm living in one that small. My mom built her own house, 1,500 square feet, for $15,000. Interesting, the 15-15 thing, but the thing is, she told me the most expensive items were actually the appliances. And they cut the trees themselves, they planed the wood. Now I understand most people aren't going to be this crafty and handy and independent. Okay, fine. And you have to hire out, I get it. But trust me, if your house is only 86 square feet, how the hell could there be over $80,000 worth of material and labor there? It's not adding up. I saw this one video and the woman was very disappointed at how much she spent on her tiny house, and the guy interviewing her, you know, he's trying to water it down, make her feel better, but really it was invalidating. And he's like, yeah, but you have this whole house, and, you know, it's yours. And I'm thinking, no, it's not. It could be repoed, because guess what? She had to take out a loan on it. She didn't want to do that. A lot of people are going tiny house to save money. She could have bought my house and lived by the ocean. Now, I'm not going tiny house because that's all I can afford. Some people go tiny house because that's in their budget. I've paid for my house. I'm going tiny because I want to simplify my life, and all of the stuff, the bling bling and the maintenance of a big house has just really become an unnecessary burden. Okay? But I really did feel compassion for the woman. She got taken for a ride and ripped off, and you know, the guy interviewing her, he's a sweet guy, the New Zealander, and he like specializes in doing these tiny house tours in his area, and I really love his videos, but she wasn't feeling it when he was saying, oh, but what a great house. And not only that, she has to rent for like a couple $100 the spot her tiny home is on. Okay, so her And by the way, when I bought my house, I absolutely avoided any of those community fees or housing additions where you have to pay to live there, you know, and they really don't even do anything. They don't even cut your yard, perhaps. But yeah. But there are people who live like that. Again, that's another video. Okay, well, I'm going to wind this down. I'm a talker. I can keep going. But I do look forward to doing the video about storage solutions. I am the queen of organization. Okay? Yes, that's right. And I am going to show you some things I've done. I'm going to be making that video soon and posting it. And feel free to write in with your own tiny house ideas regarding solutions, common flaws you see, and workarounds. And what kind of tiny house you would like. What would work for you. And also, I want to ask you people, would you really, really want a bed that you couldn't even sit upright in? Or you could sit upright, but your head had to kind of be like this. I mean, do you really, really want that? There are workarounds. There really, really are. And another thing is the toilet and dumping into the kitchen. That's so fucking wrong. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, and ciao.